the last reed that we have to show. We've shown you the ancestor of the oboe and the ancestor of the bassoon, and now it's time for the ancestor of the clarinet.
So this is called a chalumeau. Basically, what it is a recorder that you've taken the fipple off of and instead replaced with a single reed, just like a normal clarinet, tied on with some waxed string. And later on, these chalumeaux would be engineered by the Denners, a dynasty of instrument builders, into the modern clarinet. Clarinetist or good player of any.
Now that he played a Genevan psalm tune on the proto-clarinet, now I think I have a better idea what they meant when the court of Elizabeth I talked about these new imports from the continent as those Geneva jigs. We have just one instrument to show you from the string family, a Renaissance instrument that had one of its high points in the Renaissance and left its name on organ stop knobs ever since, the viola da gamba family. And you can easily find a picture of that on your sheet. Like all the other instruments and like string instruments to this day, it came in a full family of sizes. This was the smallest one, the treble, roughly the equivalent of the violin. But as you can see, proportionally, the body is almost twice as thick or more, thicker than a violin. It has 6 strings instead of 4. It has frets. Those aren't just on there because I'm an awful beginner, although I am. It just has frets. That's the nature of the instrument. And as you'll see when I attempt to play it, it's bowed underhand rather than the modern violin family overhand. The two different kinds of stringed instruments came in separate families. They grew up side by side. One is not the ancestor of the other. They're really more like cousins. Until well into the 17th century, this was the high-class instrument. The violin family was the low-class street fiddler instrument. But the instrument of courts and well-bred people was the viola da gamba family. Why they're called viola da gamba? You remember from maybe a World War II era slogan, the girl with the gorgeous gams. Gams are slang in English for legs. This family of instruments was always played between the legs, even the small size. It's not played up like this. It's played between the legs. So this family of stringed instruments was the viola da gamba family, the viola of the leg, as opposed to the violin violoncello family, which was the viola da braccia, the viol of the arm. So we're going to play a little piece together, right? You want to do it together? I'll just play a really simple tune. This will be a little quiz for the organists. Name this tune.
Here we go.
What do you know that tune as? Oh, please. Yes. Una Genevieta, yeah? And anyone know it by another name? German name? That began as an Italian and French folk song way back in the 1500s, and it became a German chorale, Von Gott will ich nicht lassen, which appears, among others, in the works of Bach.
So here's this doesn't really have a viola da gamba, but it's a viola, a stringy sound, and I think it's a fairly good match to the instrument when you hear that stringy quality that comes from the instrument itself, up in that high register.
And the last family we'll demonstrate is the brass family. And you have on your sheets, if you look up the word cornetto on the front of the sheet, just to the left of that is a picture. All the pictures on this sheet are from the Pretorius Syntagma Musicum, except for this second one on the front side with all the strange curvy instruments, and that is from Diderot's Encyclopedia. And it shows all the members of the Renaissance brass family. Well, here, I'll let Patrick take over now.
All right. Well, the cornetto is basically a recorder made out of wood. Originally, you think it may have been made out of horn, but by the time we have any surviving examples, they're all wooden. With, instead of a fiddle or a reed, you have a very tiny brass-style mouthpiece. This is called a Dutch eight-corn mouthpiece because it is literally the size of an eight-corn. It is very small. The embouchure is smaller than the modern French horns, which is why the French hornists are typically the chosen modern musicians to transition to them. I am not a French hornist. Now, preface. This was the premier solo instrument of the Renaissance, surpassing the recorder and the violin. And for about a century? It was the instrument of choice. If you were a world-class musician, you played the cornetto, and maybe you double on the violin or recorder for when you weren't playing this one, but this instrument had a place in chamber music, and especially in the church. Consorts of cornetti of various sizes and shapes and sackbuts would double voice parts in church and also have their own independent brass choirs, such as in the cathedral at San Marco in Venice. However, in 1634, a plague hit Venice, which was the premier spot. If you wanted to learn cornetto, you went to Venice to learn it. And that plague in 1634 wiped out the best cornetists in Europe, and the instrument never recovered. A century later, it was the instrument of common kind of people, and they would describe how a cornetist with his puffing lips, with his fingers popping up and down like it was a hot sausage. And then, at one point, every respectable city in Europe had an alta capella, an ensemble of brass players who play cornetti, sackbuts, and sometimes shawms from bell towers and other places and municipal festivals for special events. But certain cities eventually came to find the cornetti to be such an embarrassment that they retired them and sometimes hired violinists in their place. So, we'll give this a try.